Hi, this is my second take at the Heathers review because apparently the first file got corrupted, so that's really cool. Um, so just starting off, I thought it was really enjoyable, but there were a few sound-related issues that held it back for me. Heathers is actually one of my favorite movies, like at least top 10, so I was expecting to like it. And I know Rose is great, and I know Mike is great from Class, so I was expecting good things. And I actually knew some of the songs from when I auditioned, so I was excited for those. Um, so for the plot, Veronica comes to a new school. JD also comes to a new school. School is run by the Heathers, who are these popular jerks. Veronica starts hanging out with them. She has a falling out, and then JD and her kill the lead Heather. And then they end up going through. They killed the two jocks of the school, JD and Ram. Veronica gets fed up with JD killing people. JD is not fed up with JD killing people, so he plans to just blow up the whole school. Veronica fakes her suicide, and then she goes and kicks JD's butt, tries to take the bomb out to the football field to sacrifice herself, but then JD takes it and he blows up instead because he loves Veronica, and then Veronica sort of takes over as the new Heather of the school, but she puts focus on people being nice to each other. The themes of the show were really don't be a jerk, acceptance of others. And I think the biggest one was how far people were really willing to go for various things. Like in the case of the Heathers and Veronica, power and love for JD and Martha, who was in love with the school jock, but she was sort of the laughing stock of the school. Um, for acting, I actually didn't get a program, so I don't know everyone's names. I'm sorry that I can't credit them, but I saw a lot more of Mike than I ever really wanted to see, considering most of his scenes he was in tighty whities. But he did a fantastic job. Him and the actor who played Kurt, were absolutely hilarious. And Blue, which is pretty much their main song of the show, is probably one of my favorite shows. Either that or My Dead Gay Son, which is hilarious. But JD's acting felt a little flat. It didn't feel like he was actually driving the performance forward at all. It felt like he was just sort of along for the ride, which is not what you want from your lead. But he was a good singer, but the acting felt it wasn't bad. It just wasn't, I think, where it should have been for being the lead. But oh well. The Heathers were great. They all did their job. Um, I don't know. They were good singers. They were funny. The lead Heather, who died first, she kept coming back as a ghost, and she was great doing that. Veronica was a great actress, um, but I had some problems with some of her vocals. She was a great singer, but I'll get more into that in sound design. For directing, everything ran really smoothly, which was probably helped by having actual source material to work from. But yeah, no complaints. It didn't feel like it dragged on. It didn't feel like it was rushed. Everything just felt good and sort of transitioning into scene design, but still connected a bit to the directing. The scene transitions weren't big. It was maybe bringing on like a couch or a chair or something like that. But the stage on the back, there was a raised platform on the back half of the stage with two staircases that they utilized really, really well. And I felt like that was a really good choice. Just to not try and make these huge scene changes for no reason. Because a lot of the time, the smaller ones worked fine. Like, each of the areas felt unique, which is partly on lighting, partly on acting, partly on sound. But it just felt good. Like, I wasn't ever wondering, like, wait, where are we now? They set up really well. For costume design, it was good. Like, there's no incredibly show-offy costumes in the show. It's mostly just like high school kids. Like Kurt and Ram had their Letterman jackets. The Heathers had their matching. I don't even know what they are, but they looked really preppy. JD had his long trench coat to be that creepy, mysterious kid, and it was just a good job. It wasn't some show where you need these crazy costumes to make it work, but it was just good. For lighting, I thought it was great. The lights changed depending on where you were. For example, in the song Meant to Be Yours, the lights, I think, went down to like a blue or transitioned to a red at some point, but it really increased the intensity of the song where JD is like trying to convince Veronica that like they're meant to be together. And at the end when JD blew up, the lights actually seemed to ripple outwards, which was super, super cool, and I actually liked that a lot. Okay, sound design. So this is what held the show back for me. First of all, the pit was amazing. They did such a good job. But there were problems with the overall sound of the production. Sometimes you couldn't hear what characters were saying or singing. Like, if it wasn't Veronica, one of the Heathers, JD, Kurt, Ram, or Martha, good luck. Like, maybe 50-50 you would actually hear their lines, either in songs or in dialogue. Like, it took a lot away from the show for me. And this is what I was talking about when one of the problems I had with JD and Veronica together. They were both great singers individually, but when they had duets, their vowels didn't line up. So like on the word yeah, when they were holding it out for a long time, one would go yeah and one would go yeah, which is exaggerated just for the sake of it, but the difference between the ah and the eh really, really just felt wrong. And like I'm a choir kid, so that might be too nitpicky, but it just really rubbed me the wrong way, and it never felt like they actually lined up together. I liked both of them singing individually, but when they had to sing together and their vowels didn't match, it really, really hurt it for me. Group numbers got drowned out too. That was a big problem. Like, sometimes you just couldn't hear what they were saying at all, which might have been a technical issue, might have been people issue, but oh well. Overall, I walked out of the theater happy. The ending was sort of that cheesy, like, everyone is nice and friends now suddenly, but whatever. It's a musical. You have to expect that sometimes. I really did enjoy the show. I mean, at least the parts I could hear. But excuse me. But I did love JD and Veronica's singing. I just didn't love JD individually, or really Veronica and JD singing together. I was a bit sad because I lost about like a quarter of the songs just because I couldn't hear them, which was really, really disappointing. But oh well, like for the most part, it was still good. It just had a few issues with the audio. It might have been technical with like mics or something, or maybe it was vocal in terms of the JD and Veronica stuff, but it was still good. Overall, it was, I don't know, 7.5 out of 10. Like, I'd go see it again and I'd be happy about it, but I wouldn't go out of my way.